less than 3.5, midpoint is. Our objective is for you, the student, to be able to find the midpoint given 2 points. I think you can do it. Let's start with a practice problem. What I'm asking you right now is, what is the midpoint between A and B? Here and here. Now, we should probably remind ourselves what a midpoint is. So let's fill in this little definition over to the left. What is going on? A midpoint is a point on a line segment, line seg, because I ran out of space, that divides it in half. That's it. It's just a point that's like right in the middle, and it divides in half. So if I want to find the midpoint between A and B, a good way to do it would be to find the total distance and then cut that in half. So let's find that. Let's see how far these 2 points are from each other. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10. So these have a distance of 10 from each other. So if I want to find the midpoint, it'd probably be halfway in there, or 5 away, right? So if I counted 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that would be my midpoint, because now it's in half. 5 this way, 5 more this way, and it happens to be that 1 is our midpoint. But there's an easier way to do things, and that's why I love math. We got our little tricks to the trade. Another way we can do it is to add the distance from A to B. Just figure out this distance. So if A is at -4 and B is at 6, I add this total distance, -4 plus 6, and that gives me 2. And I'll just divide that total distance in half like we just did. And 2 divided by 2 equals 1. Oh my gosh, it's like magic. It's the same thing. Okay, so I guess this works. When you add the 2 points or find the total distance divided by 2, that tells you the midpoint. Now let's expand this to 2 dimensions on the coordinate plane, and we're going to find the midpoint of this line right here. Now we can't just count, because you have these parts where it doesn't really go through like one square, so you can't just count how many squares there are. It's uneven. So we need a formula. And the way to do it is simply this. We're going to take the 2 y coordinates, add those together and cut that in half. Find that total distance and cut in half. And we're going to do our 2 x coordinates and cut that in half again, just like we did before. And when we have our x midpoint and our y midpoint, that will give us the actual coordinate. Now what am I talking about? Let's figure this out. Well, our 2 points here are 0, 1. And if you count this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is 6, 5. If I want to find the midpoint for the y, what's in the middle here, what I'm going to do is add my y coordinates. And this is my first y coordinate, we'll call it y1, and this is my second y coordinate, this is y2. So I'll add up 1 and 5. I take 1 and 5, I add those together, I get 6 divided by 2, and that equals 3. So this is my y midpoint. Now I also want to get my x midpoint. So over here, my x1, if you look at it right here, that's my first x, right? And that's my second x. So I'll call that x2. And so it's going to be 0 plus 6. And when I add those together, I once again get 6. And I'll also divide by 2. And that's 3. That worked out nicely. So that means my midpoint will be, well, my x is 3. And my y is 3. Whoop. And so that should be my midpoint. Now, I just don't believe formulas, so let's see if this actually works. So let's go up 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's go over 3. 1, 2, 3. And does this point right here look like it's the midpoint? Yeah, it looks like it's right in the middle to me. So I'd say this is congruent to this, but that's not important. Yes, using this formula where we add up the 2 y coordinates and divide it by 2 and add up 2 x coordinates and divide it by 2 gives us our midpoint. Boom! So our midpoint formula, we just kind of figured it out. What we have to do is add our 2 x's, x1 plus x2, right? And divide that number by 2, and that's our x coordinate. And then we have y1 plus y2, and we divide that number by 2, and that's our y coordinate. And that's our midpoint formula. Done did it. So let's try it. Let's see if this actually works on other problems. So we want to find the midpoint of Mn with the endpoints M, 1, 2, and N, 7, 6. Alright, so there's 5 steps to do this, to really find out the midpoint and check your answers and everything. And if you follow these 5 steps, you'll be fine. The first thing to do is label your coordinates. And we've learned to do that, and we're getting good at it. So this is our x1, and this is our y1, and this is our x2, and this is our y2. All right, xy, xy. Done. Step 2 is to write down the midpoint formula. And luckily enough, I did it for you, but it's always good just for your memory to write down the midpoint formula. It's hard memorizing formulas, but if you keep writing them, you'll get good at it. Step 3 is to substitute the coordinates into the formula. So to find the x midpoint, the x coordinate of the midpoint, we have to do x1, which is 1, okay, and add that to the x2, which is 7. We're going to divide that by 2. And then we have to also do that for the y. So y1's 2, and y2 is 6. All right, we add these together, we get 8 divided by 2. And for this one, we also get 2 plus 6 is 8 divided by 2. And that's what our midpoint will equal. And let's put this in the calculator and see what this number is equal to. So our m is equal to 4, 4. Now I realize the last two midpoints have been on the same exact place. The coordinates have been the same. That's not always how it is. I made these lessons. I forgot to, whatever. Anyway, they're not always the same, but it just happens that you get it. So let's see if 4, 4 even looks like it's the midpoint of our 2 points, okay? So point M is 1, 2, which is 1, 2 over here. And point N is 7, 6, so it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay? And let's draw a nice little line there. Get a line going right here. Good. Now our midpoint is 4, 4. So let's see if it actually looks like it's really the midpoint. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right over here. And does that look like it's right in the middle? Sure is. So our midpoint, 4, 4, is the midpoint. We did it! Just in case you didn't follow along, let's try it one more time. Okay? We want to find the coordinate of midpoint of AB with the endpoint of A, negative 4, 1, and B, 6, 4. So first thing, we're going to label it x1, y1, x1, y1, and x2, y2. Remember, that just means our first x, our first y, our second x, our second y. Step 2 is to write down our formula. So m equals, well, it goes x1 plus x2 over 2, comma, y1 plus y2 over 2. We now plug into our formula, okay? We're going to substitute coordinates into our formula. So m is going to equal negative 4 plus 6 over 2, comma, 1 plus 4 over 2. All right. Negative 4 plus 6 is 2 over 2. And 1 plus 4 over 2 is 5 over 2. When we figure out what this is, we get m equals 1. Our midpoint equals 1. And 5 divided by 2, yeah, it's a decimal. It's 2.5. And that is the midpoint. All right. So let's see if this even works. It's a good idea just to graph it, to always check your answers. So we have negative 4, 1 is one of our points. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And 6, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Now we're predicting that our midpoint should be at 1, 2.5. Let's see if that's the case. So if I go over 1 and up 1, 2.5, which is right here, looks good. That's my point. And does that look like it's right in the middle? Besides my crappy points that I drew, yeah, that looks like it's in the middle. So this is A, this is B, and this is our midpoint. Right over here at 1. Okay, these are slightly different problems, and just try to take a look. You'll see what the difference is. Q is the midpoint of MM. All right, it's looking the same. If the coordinates of M are 1, 2, and Q is 4, 5, what is the coordinate of the endpoint N? Did you see the difference there? What has been given to us is the midpoint. They gave us Q, which is our midpoint, and we're actually trying to find the other endpoint now, not the midpoint. So how do we do this? Well, there's a hard way and there's an easy way, and I thought about it for a while and I was like, let me show them the easier way, because you know what? It works great. So all you have to do, there's no equations involved, you just have to plot your points. So m is 1, 2, over 1, up 2, and our q is 4, 5. So this is m, okay? Q is 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So what we're trying to do is find the other endpoint. And the way to do that is, you know the other endpoint is going to be somewhere up here. And since this is in the middle, what you got to do, oh sorry, this is Q. It just count the difference. I mean, count what the change is. So look, to go from M to Q, I know I have to go up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3. Now for this to be the midpoint, what I'd have to do is go up another 3 and over another 3, and that would put it right in the middle. So up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3. That is my other endpoint. That's N. And sure enough, if you look at that, doesn't that look like it's right square in the middle? Like a midpoint? Sure does. And that is all that you gotta do. So our new endpoint would be, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our point is 7, 8. That is our other endpoint. Let's try it one more time. So Q is the midpoint of MN. If the coordinate of M is negative 4, 1 and Q is 1, 3, find the coordinate of endpoint N. Now once again, they gave us our midpoint, which is Q. All right, that's our midpoint. And we're trying to find our other endpoint. So let's start with graphing it. Well, our point M is negative 1, 2, 3, 4, up 1. That is our M. And our Q is over 1, up 3. That is our Q. We count how far it takes to get us there. So it goes up 1, 2, over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So for this to be the midpoint, once again, you just have to go up 2, 1, 2, over 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that should be our other endpoint N. Now let's graph our line. Let's put the line down. And sure enough, if you look at this, doesn't look like Q is your midpoint? Sure does. So N is, let's see the coordinate, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this would be 6, 5. And that's it, guys. That's all you got to do. All right, guys, be good people. Well, I got nothing. No, I do. I got something to tell you. It's good to love from your heart, not your head. Figure out what that means. Yeah.